We're live.
Great.
Yay.
How's it going, Nate?
Hi, Lisa. Welcome to the fourth Sunday of our little Lightning Talk weekly shenanigans. Do you like this name or should we change the name?
What's the name right now?
This Week in Lightning.
This Week in Lightning? Yeah, I think it's great. I
I,
think it's what we're aspiring to be, right? As a talk show.
I asked my wife and she said you should call it Shock to the Face. I was like, that sounds violent and amazing.
Yeah, it's pretty violent.
I was like, we're all out
Yeah.
of lightning puns.
Yeah,
I feel
yeah.
like. I mean, we're already going to other
Yeah,
languages. I don't know.
I spent some time a while last year. It sounds random, but like friend and I have recently discovered that like there's a group of people that really like getting shocked, not like really like getting shocked. Am I getting in trouble for this? Maybe I shouldn't tell the story. It's fine.
So,
Um, But like I was like spending time hanging out with like skydivers, and it turns out skydivers as a group are like tend to know more about like how shock tolerant humans are than any other group of people.
I I don't know. I remember reading something about Thomas Edison and back in those days, where they like one of the first use cases of electricity was to electrocute people for fun,
Yeah. Yeah,
like
and I
as a
think like
prank,
the
and it was like
skydiver group of
serious.
people like still keep that tradition alive.
Yeah, that's great. Anyway, I'm Nate
Yeah.
from Voltage. This is, I guess, still This Week in Lightning, and I'm joined again with Lisa, and I'm glad everybody is back. I love you guys, and yeah, it was been an interesting week in some ways. Maybe not directly Lightning related in some of them, but there's been some multiple sort of use cases are being like competed, like, all right, let me rephrase that. Like, for example, we have the crowdfunding thing that's suddenly picked up,
Uh,
and I thought most bitcoiners knew about Telecoin by DJ Booth because it has been awesome for like ever, uh since like 2019. I actually have had a crowdfunding on there to fund my coffee addiction since
oh.
2019. But like I don't watch it anymore. But
Wait, tell me more about Telecoin. What is this?
okay.
Like it's
So
do you have
so
it up on the I can't see your shared
yeah, no,
screen.
it's
It's
okay.
fine.
So like it's a really simple UI slash website that allows you to do crowdfunding, aka like GoFundMe or whatever if you need help or you want to raise something for a cause. It's just 100% Bitcoin native. You can do on chain by like just putting in an address or an XPub. You can have an external Lightning node go to it through an API endpoint that like an API key generates, and you just put it on your node and it works. Set your goals. You can look at little charts and stuff. Yeah, it's DJ Booth has actually done a lot of work on this that I haven't even noticed until like recently logging in. Like he's got Paynim support, which is what like Samurai Wallet uses, which is cool.
Mhm.
Um, you can hook OpenNode up to it if you want to use OpenNode or your own sort of plugins and all kinds of stuff. So I think it's really cool. There's another. Well, actually, do you have any questions? I'm not an expert on this, but I have known of it forever.
I mean, I guess like my question is, so you set it up and then people it's basically like a way that people can send you money then?
Yeah, like don't let the name fool you. Kind of like Telecoin sounds like a shitcoin. Like it should have been called like Bitcoin Funds or something maybe.
Oh,
But
I see. Okay.
but it's not an actual coin. I don't, it's just called that for some reason. It's Bitcoin only. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but
Yeah, wait, okay.
yeah.
But so like if I wanted to like create so why would I use Telecoin? Like I go there to like
Oh well, I mean maybe I mean for all kinds of sort of fundraising purposes, right? You want to have a fundraising drive for orphans, or you need a
Bitcoin
surgery
Larks.
that you can't
Yeah.
afford or something.
Oh, I see. Yeah,
Um,
those two.
yeah, stuff like that, I guess.
Mm. Okay, so you go and you create like a project page and then
Mm-hmm.
give
Yep.
Telecoin like an address to pay the money to.
Yep. And your account is, you can either like make a login or you can connect it to your Twitter. So you could just like hit
Oh, okay.
Twitter and that's your login basically.
But then when
Um,
people pay Telecoin, did I give them an address that they funnel the money to, or do you pay
you give
Telecoin?
them the like page, so it'll be like Telecoin slash a few random characters, and then
Yeah.
that'll take them, and then they could say $5, either Lightning or on chain, and
Hmm.
then it'll just generate an invoice on the page.
Yeah, but when if someone pays Telecoin to like fund my project, does Telecoin get the money?
Um, this is a completely free service. DJ Booth does not take a cut at all. He lives on donations, which is on
Yeah,
your
but
page too.
when people who are people sending the money to when they pay Telecoin? Like, does it pay to a
You
wallet
specifically.
address?
Yeah,
It pays to
sure.
me.
Yeah, you
Oh,
get to
okay. So like
choose.
I put in a wallet address
Uh-huh.
in
Yeah,
Telecoin.
exactly.
And then when I send people my project page, when they pay the money, it funnels straight to the person, like the address that you put in.
Mm-hmm.
I see. So you don't actually, there's no middleman. Like
Correct.
Telecoin just like facilitates. So like, here's the page. Here's how you can
Right.
provide payment, and then, but then do you have to set up a Lightning node too to get Lightning payments, or how does that work?
You can either connect OpenNode. There's like an API
Mm.
key for that.
I
That
see.
that
Okay.
shows you right there. Or you could do
Yeah.
a node connect, which is
Oh, okay.
and then this they also, so the reason why this is kind of blowing up is because Umbral put this on their app page and people are kind of curious. Oh, what's this? So more people are using it.
That's cool.
There's the Telecoin Connect is what you install on your node. So if you were just running a node just straight up, not on Umbrel or
Mhm.
anything, you have to like clone the repository. It's a Python thing, and then you just generate your API key right from your macaroons, which is what LND uses, and then you just put your API key in. BTC Pay also has an integration with Telecoin
Mhm.
Connect, and or you could do it manually.
That's cool.
Is
Nice.
what
So
it
it's
shows.
basically an easy way to get a website that people can then send you money, basically.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like a easy like description of
It's
the
I
thing.
couldn't imagine it being any easier, honestly. I think the UI is really slick and really vibrant.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
Oh, great. Cool. Okay, so Telecoin, I mean, that sounds awesome because then you can basically get people to like donate you money directly, right? And you don't have
Mm-hmm.
to like worry
Right.
about Telecoin holding your funds or when they're going to pay them out, etc., right?
Right.
Um, which like I kind of like feels like it plays into some other big stuff that's happening this week. Like, do you know? So apparently, I don't really understand the situation in Canada, and
Mm-hmm.
part of me like really doesn't care,
Yeah,
you know.
I understand.
Um, but apparently, like a bunch of truckers drove their trucks into Ottawa, and someone started raising money for them. I don't know
So
who.
all right, so it's my understanding that this originally started as sort of a blockade on the border in Montana, one of these really important routes, of just a
Oh,
few like truckers saying, "Hey, listen, we don't like having to quarantine to do all this crap every time we deliver stuff from the border of Canada to the US." So part of this is the US's fault also. But
hmm.
as is, with most things of like this, it sort of starts growing and again, I guess people are frustrated, upset, whatever, mandates, blah 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 blah. They see like a movement they can connect onto, jump on that, and now they don't feel alone anymore. And then it's just like that sort of human psychology thing. So then they're like, all right, well, we're gonna drive from Alberta to the capital and honk our horns for until this crap's over, basically.
Okay, cool.
So then
Why did
someone's
they start raising money though? Is the part I don't
Well, I don't think it
understand.
was them. I just think somebody made a GoFundMe and was like, "Hey, I want to help the truckers. I want to help fight
Um,
for freedom and like all that good stuff." And so they started it and they were gonna like give it, but like GoFundMe has like a delay process and blah blah blah.
yeah.
You can't raise money for like
Wait,
terrible
so we don't
things.
even know who the guy who's gonna get the money is, or if he's a trucker or what it's going for.
I personally do not know who was organizing that whole thing.
Okay, cool.
I did not hear who was. I know who's organizing the Bitcoin drive, which is
What's the money gonna go to?
Apparently there's a few people talking about it. I assume it will go towards food and water and replacements for the horns if they horn too much and they break. I don't know.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
But
Oh, cool.
I
Okay.
don't know. I have no idea. I have no idea.
But
But the
so now they're using Telecoin. So the thing with the GoFundMe is a bunch of people put money into their GoFundMe, right? And
yeah,
then GoFundMe said, actually, we don't actually want to pay this money out for this cause.
right. And the prevailing thought is that's because of pressure from the Canadian government to shut it down.
Okay,
But yeah,
sure, they want to operate in Canada. I get that.
yeah. So
Okay, so they got
yeah.
the $10 million, and then, but then there was like it's something about like GoFundMe then had the money, right? And they people couldn't get a refund, or they had to request a refund. It
Well,
didn't just get
originally
automatically.
GoFundMe was going to take those millions of dollars and give them to causes that they believed in and not the actual donors believed in. And then that was like a huge thing. And then they were like, okay, we'll refund your donation if you ask. It'll take 7 to 10 business days. And then the number one tweet in response to that was someone saying, you know what, everyone, just call your credit card companies and issue a chargeback. See how they like that. And so that was the last I heard from that.
Interesting. Okay. But I mean, like, part of the thing that seems interesting to like highlight here really is like GoFundMe is basically like sort of like a money transmitter, right? Like you
Sure.
give them money and then you tell them where you want that money to end up. And
Yeah.
so they collect all the payments from all the people and then send them to the final destination or not, apparently.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
but it's kind of interesting when you think about it though. Like if they were regulated as a money transmitter business, like at some level, why do they have any knowledge of the reason why you're sending the money? You know, like I feel like there's a lot of things here that it's like if they're just in the service of transmitting money from point A to point B, like I don't know. Anyways, it's kind of an interesting. I think then we kind of get into we get
Yeah.
into like more bigger questions about like the role of like money in the state, right? But let's not get there quite yet. Let's just like talk
Yeah.
more about
For
Telecoin.
for me personally, it's just like I've been in Bitcoin for so long now that whenever I see sort of like something I can do with Bitcoin and then
Mm,
see the legacy uh, version of that, the legacy
yeah,
version makes me want to just like explode because it's
yeah.
so convoluted, so annoying. Everyone's taking a cut. Everyone knows your crap. It's just like we need to
Yeah,
stop this.
GoFundMe knows why you're sending the money, right? And
Yeah,
like they decided they didn't like it, so they're like, no, we're not actually going to make this payment that you've asked us to make, right?
but like I
Whereas
could
with Bitcoin, there's no one that has that opportunity to be like, fuck, you know, like, hey, as a matter of fact, as the money transmitter, I don't approve
and
of
it's
where you're transmitting
worldwide
the
too.
money
So
to.
someone in wherever in the world
Yeah.
can go to a cloud hosted lightning service, pay for a
Mhm.
node for an hour, open up a channel, send the money, close the channel, and like who the heck knows what happens.
That's true.
Which is both good and bad. Like I don't know, you know.
Oh, I see. Because when you open and close the Lightning channel, no one knows what the destination of the funds is.
Right, right. That's
Versus the on-chain payment, you can see exactly who you paid the funds to.
yeah, that I mean I
That's
would imagine
interesting.
that would probably be best practice.
Yeah, I mean, it costs a little more in that you have to like if you're
Because
only making one payment, you have to pay to open the channel and then close it again, right? But
yeah,
right
but
now at current fee rates, I feel like that's fine, right?
yeah,
Maybe
it seems fine. Yeah.
seems fine.
I guess the thing about donating on chain is even if you use whatever your best practice is um, to the point where you send the funds, you don't know where once the other party has control where they are going to send the funds, which could screw
Mm.
you retroactively in some way.
Right. And it's like the thing about blockchains is that they're permanent, right?
Right.
So maybe we can't figure it out today, but like 5 years from now, someone can figure out how to go back and piece all that together.
Yeah.
Whereas with Lightning, the payment data, the open and closed channel will be recorded, but that's only between you and your channel peer. And you didn't pay your channel peer, you paid someone else. So there's really no record of your relationship with the final destination on chain at any point with Lightning,
Mm-hmm.
which is really interesting.
Mm-hmm.
It's
Yeah. I
cool.
mean, as long as the liquidity's there, at least.
Yeah, that becomes a big thing, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I do know, at least for this specific thing, the person running the node generating the invoices on Telecoin has an incredible amount of inbound liquidity because he is pretty famous in the Bitcoin world.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah, so that's
Yeah, it's cool to see. Like, I don't know. I had some troubles with the payment processor this week. Do we want to talk about that? I don't know. It's kind of on topic. It doesn't really have to do with Lightning so much.
No, I think this is interesting because this is like one of those friction points we've all had to deal with in the legacy system that Bitcoin and Lightning has a good chance of making easier and better.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'm running a class with Base 58. It's great. We just filled up our first class. We're super excited. Everyone's, all our students paid for the class up front. Most of them paid through Bitcoin with OpenNode. Shout out to OpenNode for their great service. But some of them wanted to pay with credit card, which is like fine. So we need credit card processor. We went with PayPal just because it's like easiest to like get buttons on a page. Like you can just get some PayPal buttons and stick them on a web page, and that's easy. Maybe Stripe has something like that. Anyways, we went with PayPal just because it was like, okay, this seems fast. And yeah, so we managed to process like, a handful of like signups through PayPal, no problem. Money hit the bank account. Everyone seems happy. We pull it out to our we pull the money from PayPal over our bank account. Then at some point, and these are credit card payments, right? Like normal ass credit card payments, whatever. Sometime last week, I get this notice from PayPal that's like, hey, your account's been flagged. And it's like, okay. And can you please submit some information about your business? I need more stuff about your bank account and what these transactions are for and what your business is doing. And so we're running a class, so there's not really they're please one of the things they wanted was information from your supplier about supplies that you're using for the stuff that you've sold. And it's well, I sent them my Zoom invoice from Zoom, the digital video thing, I was well, here's some materials that we've gotten for the class, this is a supplier of what I will be giving people. And they wanted receipts from the transaction. So I've been sending people emails confirming their registration. And so I sent them copies of all the emails I had sent people, confirming obviously to the address. And so I submitted all this documentation that they wanted, right? And then I wake up the next morning to an email that's hi, you've been permanently banned from PayPal. We are shutting your account down, which okay, really fucking annoying one. I have to redo the website and figure out a new option. And at this point it's pretty much fine. Everyone's paid for the class already. So it's not I need to be, if I was a real business that needed to keep processing payments continuously, this would be an enormous loss of income, right? But I'm not doing that. So it's kind of fine in my case. And we had already pulled all the money out of PayPal and put it into our bank account. So it's not they had frozen any funds or anything. It was fine, right? But 2 days ago, wake up and they reversed one of the payments with no one of the payments that we had withdrawn to our bank account, they reversed it, which means they basically reached into our bank account, pulled it back out again. And then I logged into the PayPal website. There's no record of why they did this, the fact that they've done it. So my balance in PayPal is still showing $0. And I contacted their support. This was 24 hours after it happened, right? It wasn't even same day. It'd been 24 hours since it happened. I called their support line. I was hey. They're oh, do you want to talk about why your account was closed? I was no, I don't really I understand you don't want to have my whatever. I don't care about that. Ooh, the only thing I care about is why you took my money. Hang on, I'm gonna.
I think, and it's totally up to you, but I think future classes should just be Bitcoin only.
Yeah, but I want to be able to take. We had one of our students really wanted to pay with Bitcoin because we give a 15% discount if you pay with Bitcoin. We're trying to incentivize it, for sure. But one of the guys who signed up for the class spent 3 or 4 days trying to get Bitcoin to pay us via Bitcoin because he wanted the discount. And I didn't ask too many questions. I kind of just was letting him handle it, so to speak. He really struggled to get his money converted into Bitcoin so that he could pay us via Bitcoin. So I didn't, like I said, I didn't really ask. I say that because it's I think having the credit card stuff is nice, but Anyways, I haven't logged into my PayPal account in a few days. I'm gonna look on Monday and like I don't know where the money went. Like it doesn't say. They like the
I'm
person on the telephone like had no idea. She was like, "Oh, I have no idea that this even happened. Like we have no record that we did this and like anything." And
yeah,
she's
I
like, "What
mean, we gotta wait
the
through
fuck?"
the weekend because it's not a business, business day and
Yeah, but it
everything.
happened
So
on Thursday. Like, what are they doing over
3 to 5
there? Like,
business days.
hello, like where did the money go? Like at this point, I'm like, okay, fine, whatever. I'm pretty sure
Bitcoin
the reason
fixes
they shut
this.
my account down is that the documents I sent them have the word Bitcoin on them.
Uh-oh.
Which is kind of, I mean,
Well,
I'm teaching
PayPal does
class.
Bitcoin crap though, so
The what?
doesn't PayPal do Bitcoin stuff now?
They do. I own some Bitcoin from PayPal. I like bought $10 worth of Bitcoin just to
There you
like
go.
hold it. I don't know. Yeah, so they do Bitcoin stuff, but they're not going to process. And that's like not. We don't even like do anything with like. I mean, the whole class is about Bitcoin, but like
Yeah.
you remove the content, and it's like, oh, we're just an online education company.
Right.
Like they
I'm
clearly didn't.
sorry. Gosh.
Do they
Yeah.
not know how to read? I mean, it's fine. It's just
They'll
like
figure it out.
it just really sucks. Yeah. So now we signed up with like Stripe. Hopefully they won't give us crap. But it's like I don't.
Do
Yeah, it's hard.
So Renee is in the comments.
Oh,
Renee Picard. He
hey
says hi,
Renee.
and he actually has a really good point that DJ Booth, who to my knowledge is like the kingpin of Telecoin, could in theory swap out the API key to go to his node and start generating invoices without you really knowing about it,
Uh,
or change the on-chain address or whatever without you really knowing about it. So that is, a hole in the security a little bit because the site part is centralized. It's not like you're hosting your own. It's not like BTC Pay Server where you're hosting your own thing.
yeah.
So yeah, I mean BTC Pay Server is probably be the safest way to do a donation thing. But it would be, yeah, so I agree for sure. And that's kind of like, I mean, you were kind of like trying to poke holes at it, so that's probably the biggest thing. He said he used Tallycoin to help generate funding for the Lightning book 3 years ago
Oh,
too.
that's awesome. That's super cool.
Um,
Yeah, I didn't. I'm surprised I hadn't heard of it before now. So I mean, in some ways, I feel like this like trucker stuff up in Canada is great for Tallycoin, right? Like, I mean, it's
oh
great for
yeah,
Bitcoin one. Let's be
DJ
real, but
posted like his
um,
hits or whatever. Oh, like his traffic has increased like thousands of percentages,
yeah, I'm sure that's really good. Yeah, that's cool. I
something
don't
like
know.
that.
This whole like, I don't. Yeah, I mean, can we talk about like government and
Please.
like
Okay. Yeah.
payment
Yeah. Yeah. I just wanted to
stuff
see
now, or
what
is that
Renee
like?
was. Just wanted to point that out. That it's
Oh
not.
yeah,
You
no,
know.
I just meant like I don't know. I think it's kind of like I think the United States government has definitely in the last like I don't know how long, let's say decade, definitely started leaning more on like using the monetary system as like a tool of policy, right?
Mm.
So like their way of enforcing stuff isn't they're not gonna like bring the guns out. That's how we used to get stuff done. Now they're just like, okay, we're just gonna cut off your back access to money and like or the banking system, I should say. So like Bitcoin is like a real threat to their ability to like make threats, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know. I
No.
mean, and that's I think why I think that's why the government is so really trying to like make it hard for you to use Bitcoin is because, so like if you did you see the thing on like this BlockFi guy
Yes.
this week?
Yes. That was
Okay.
horrifying. That was
Yeah, so
completely
some guy
horrifying.
took out a loan from BlockFi and then something like the price went down, so he kept having to post more collateral so they wouldn't
He
liquidate his
posted
loan.
post CoinJoin collateral apparently.
Yeah, and then he put up coins supposedly that had been coin joined and they were like, this doesn't meet our compliance thing. We're just gonna sell these coins because apparently that's what you do when you get coins that you don't know where
It
they
must
came
be in the
from.
fine print. That's insane though.
Never mind the fact that they're definitely still Bitcoins and they're valid as Bitcoin, right?
Right.
It's like I don't know. It's just like, anyways, but like it's kind of wild to see BlockFi do that because that's like to me that's like an extension of like the state saying like if you don't know where these funds are from, you can't take them. I mean, it's kind of ironic that they took them and sold them, like,
Yeah,
I don't know.
that was just horrifying. I mean,
Should we walk through what happened there? Maybe like just so our listeners can like hear kind
yeah,
of.
it was on Reddit. It was on the BlockFi subreddit.
Yeah.
Uh, let's see. I don't even know if it's still there. Oh yeah, here it is. Fortune lost. It's pretty short. I can read it real quick.
Yeah, do it.
All right.
Well, I mean, maybe we should. Would you want to read? Yeah, yeah. Go ahead. Go ahead
Yeah.
and read it. Sounds good.
Okay. All right. So took out a loan for $300,000, put up $600,000 worth of collateral. So the way that these collateralized loans work is that there is an LTV ratio, means loan to value, and there's an agreement where you put up a certain amount, and then if it during the lifetime of that loan, if it goes below a certain percentage, to save the loan providers money, basically they liquidate it on you and you lose everything.
So
So
so if he put up 600K worth, he put up 10 Bitcoin roughly, right?
yeah, I assume this was at 60K.
Yeah.
Oh,
So he
so it
put
was
up
at
10.
65. He took this out at 65K.
So maybe like how much Bitcoin? That's like 9 Bitcoin, something like that. He put
Yeah.
up like 9 Bitcoin, right? And took out 300K in USD.
It's interesting because in his post he says that the loan was being called back after he put in additional collateral to increase that ratio, that LTV ratio,
Mhm.
due to indirect exposure to a mixing service. So it could have been someone sending him Bitcoin and then him sending it again, and now it's because now it's indirect. It's not like
Yeah.
he spent it straight out of his whirlpool or something.
Yeah.
And a lot of people have talked about over the years, like Matt Odell and stuff, that if you're post coin joining into a KYC service, you should hop those UTXOs around a little bit
Mhm.
at non like at random intervals throughout a period of time, just to break that link, unless you really trust whoever you're sending them to. But like,
Mm,
but nobody
that's
knows.
wild.
But yeah, yeah. So I appealed the decision. It was on my Trezor the whole time. Apparently, he got something from Bisq that mixed into his UTXO bank that messed up
But I
all
mean,
that.
basically, this boils down to the fact that some exchange that he transacted with was on some blacklist or something. And so when he sent
Right.
those coins to BlockFi, they say, okay, we can't, the government has told us we have to verify all the funds that come in and they have to have like standards for these funds. And these
Right.
funds you've sent us based on like some person who did something with them before you got them is not compliant with something. So like we're gonna count them as
That's
like
enough of
not
a red flag to just.
valid. Yeah, so like at this point, okay, so he had like let's say 10 Bitcoin that he had submitted as collateral, and then as the loan value drops, he has to keep posting Bitcoin. So let's say he gets up to what, like 15 Bitcoin maybe?
Okay, sure, we'll go with that.
Because he has to keep it, like if he has to keep it at 600K and Bitcoin's at what, like 30K, that means he'd need 20 Bitcoin, right?
I don't think I'm following.
Maybe. Well, if you have to
So,
keep 600K worth of Bitcoin, right? And so you start at 10
well,
Bitcoin
it's
because
based on
one
the
Bitcoin.
dollar value, though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you start at 10 Bitcoin, that's worth 600K. At 30K Bitcoin, how many Bitcoin do you have to have 600K worth of stuff? Like 20 Bitcoin, right?
Yeah.
It doubled.
No, you're
Price
right.
cuts in
Yeah,
half.
yeah, yeah.
So he needed to have 20 Bitcoin locked into BlockFi to keep his loan from getting liquidated, right? To keep his loan to value at 600K. Maybe it didn't have to be that high, but just assuming.
Yeah, I don't know what his liquidation point was.
Yeah,
I think it was.
but
It
let's
says 37,000 actually.
okay. But I don't know, we're making some gross
Yeah,
generalizations here, right? Like
but yeah, I mean, there's quite a few extremely centralized, because what BlockFi does, I believe, is they go ahead and rehypothecate this Bitcoin and go make money on it at like a traditional bank would do with dollars, right? Because the dollars you have in your checking account aren't actually your dollars. They're being,
Yeah, I have no idea.
I'm just, I mean,
I
I
mean,
do.
yeah, but so he gets to keep his 300K loan that he got, right? It's just he lost all his Bitcoin got sold. Like
Yeah,
ton of his
so
Bitcoin got
he
sold.
says, I took a loan when Bitcoin was 65,000, paid 6,000 in origination fees and a few loan payments, got liquidated at 37,000 because of indirect mixing exposure, and now I lost more than half of my Bitcoin holdings and have a huge tax bill and was screwed out of a fortune. And that's basically how it ends. Yeah, the tax bill's no joke either. Like, because when they liquidate, that's a sell on you.
Yeah.
Which is insane.
But they would only sell the cover, right? They'd only sell 300K worth of. They'd only sell 10 of his Bitcoin, right, to cover the cost.
But still, whatever your original cost basis is, now you're
That's true.
out of it.
That's true. I mean, at least he has the cash in theory. Like, I don't know. What do you pay the loan into, right?
One of the primary reasons to do a Bitcoin-backed loan is to pull
Avoid
some liquidity
taxes.
out to avoid taxes.
Yeah.
It's really risky.
Sounds like Uncle Sam got his pound of flesh. If only he hadn't have used mixed coins. I mean, but this is like Uncle Sam's like rules about having to like have like, like they've basically, and it's like Uncle Sam placed this requirement on BlockFi, right? Like BlockFi is operating as an enforcer of the state's rules.
A lot of these institutions sort of over comply though to show good faith to the government.
Yeah. Right. It's like not fealty, but like basically like hey, look, we're really good. We're like very good. We're so good. We're going to be super cautious just so that you never have any reason to shut us down.
Right.
I don't know. Anyways, I mean, I think like this is how like money. I mean, this is why PayPal shut me down, right? They're like, we think you might be, I don't know, accepting Bitcoin payments. I mean, the thing is like there was never going to be any Bitcoin going through the PayPal account.
They were probably afraid of laundering. That's like it.
Yeah.
Like, what if you're paying yourself or whatever?
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I would assume that the people who pay, I don't know, like one of the things I thought, and one of the reasons that I like called them to ask about the money, I was like, well, maybe one of the people who paid me money for this class used something that like PayPal didn't like, and that was why they like shut my account down and like had questions. So it's more like who paid me money. They're like, I don't know any of that. So it's trying to be like, okay, who do I need to like, who's in trouble? Who do I need to like ask about like class, see about class stuff. But anyways, it's fine. I think PayPal is just being like a little like tyke. Like being childish. But yeah, I don't know, man. Like Bitcoin is like, it's a real threat to the state's ability to like govern. Like, what does government mean? It means like...
It's more like with Bitcoin, like what Bitcoin could possibly be destined to do, it's going to, I don't want to say force, but it's going to sort of realign incentives to a way where governments have to operate it. Like they have to provide a legitimate service, sort of, instead of...
I mean, but it's not even like the legitimate service of the government. It basically removes the ability of the government to like dictate where money's allowed to go.
Use money as a weapon. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is what sanctions and stuff are all about.
It's what they're all about. And it's been our favorite way of like dealing with like Iran and Venezuela for how long now?
And you would think that because that's a thing, the U.S. government would want to try to get as much Bitcoin as possible because they don't want those guys to have as much as possible. You would think.
I don't know. Do we want the government holding Bitcoin?
I don't think so, but I would think if they understood what was happening, that would be the obvious game theory sort of play. Now,
or I mean, they just trust that Americans are doing a good job of collecting it for them, and at some point they'll like come through and I don't know. I'm just kidding.
And be a hero.
Collect it from us.
Cool. Yeah.
Like
once 99% are mined, which is in what, like 15 years? When's that? No, it's longer than that. 95 years. So let's bring up the Clark Moody dashboard. I'm really interested and curious now.
I don't know. I mean, how did the United States get all its gold? Didn't it just like it took it from somewhere, right? Do you remember?
Oh, yeah. Well, I was reading the fiat standard, and it had a lot to do with the fact that the U.S. wasn't the only sort of country like doing these weird credit things. I don't know. I'm not like a financial guy, but like, and so everyone else trusted the government, the American government, so that's why they did that. And then a few years later, it stopped working. Anyway, 99% of the Bitcoin will be mined at the current pace, March 8th, 2035. So that's not
Soon.
too long.
Soon.
99%.
Soon.
99.9%, 2048.
Soon.
We will be alive, probably.
Soon.
That's
Yeah.
gonna be. It's gonna get interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. We'll see.
And then I always think this is funny. Like 2105 will be the last full Bitcoin,
Mm.
and then it will take another 34 years to
Yeah.
finish it out.
Because of the halving time, you
Yeah,
know?
it's
Like it
insane.
halves every time. And someone was saying like the last I feel like I was reading recently, someone was like kind of musing. So like it depends on how much you know about Bitcoin, but there's this like dust limit, which basically limits the smallest
I want
UTXO.
to talk about that. Yeah.
The very last like blocks, like because it halves every time, right? The last halving, the block reward will be 1 Satoshi per block, right? Which is beneath the dust limit. So effectively, like the effective blocks that you can actually mine and get Satoshi out of, if the dust limit doesn't change, will be well before the blocks stop
That's a
being
good point. I think
halved.
it's so Vivek, our buddy on the Simple Lightning newsletter, talked about that this week. Did you happen to check that out at all?
I don't think I saw it. I subscribe. I think it's a great newsletter.
Yeah, me too. Um, yeah, you mentioned so many believe the Lightning Network to be the holy grail for micropayments, but it's still unclear whether that is true due to the long-term economical feasibility. This is because of the 546 Satoshi dust limit default relay policy on-chain enforced by the Bitcoin node operators, as well as the 483 max HTLCs in flight, base fee, PPM, etc., etc. Um, so yeah, that is very interesting. So what happens if a change address gets less than 546 satoshis right now?
Well, in theory, the transaction that I say in theory because I haven't like tested it, but the transaction that contains that output won't be broadcast, won't be relayed. So it won't enter the mempool, is my understanding. Or like if you try and send it to the next thing, they won't relay it because it's not.
Would is that could I take that transaction and like RBF it in theory? Obviously, I'm losing money if I do that, but in theory,
No, it's so
it's
the
totally
out.
out. Okay.
What's the output value, right? So the fact that the
Mm.
output that you've constructed in the transaction is too small, it
Mm-hmm.
doesn't meet the relay rules. So my
Mm.
understanding is it won't get relayed. I mean, I think if you can convince a miner, if you can get
Mm.
your transaction to a miner and convince them to include it in a block, it doesn't matter what the relay rules are or the mempool rules are because
I
mempool
see.
rules aren't consensus. So if you can figure out how to get it relayed, that's fine. But you'd have to go through some system that's not the mempool relay system.
Very interesting.
You submit it directly to a miner, like, yo, miner, take my transaction.
I want my 500 cents.
Yeah, exactly.
Can this change without a hard fork?
Yeah, because
Okay.
yes, of course. I say yes, of course,
Yeah.
because it's a mempool thing.
Okay.
And mempools aren't consensus, mempools are relay
Okay.
rules. So like it's a relay rule thing.
Okay. But that
Yeah,
relay rule is default at the moment, so you would have to go in and change it manually on your
yeah, and
individual.
I think you can set this on every node can set it independently. There's no consensus around what dust
Okay.
is.
Interesting.
Um, which makes it very hard as like a Lightning developer to figure out what size outputs should we not include because we're worried they won't get relayed becomes a real problem because there's no number that's known. There's no known. I mean, there's a number that's the default,
Uh-huh.
but it's possible that if everyone on their node network changed it to like 1,000 satoshis per output, then Lightning might be making transactions that won't relay, which means they won't end up at the getting to a miner, which means they'll never be included, which would be problematic for some stuff that has like timers on it.
So we're talking about like forced closing channels
Yeah.
and gotcha.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, like, there's an interesting thing here about like relay rules versus like block inclusion rules, right? Or like consensus rules. And Lightning really struggles with some of the relay rules, which are related to mempool stuff. And the reason the relay rules exist is like they're trying to prevent people from spending. So we talked earlier about did we talk about Solana? No, I was talking to my brother about Solana earlier.
No, and I know almost nothing about that. So
Yeah, Solana had a problem with denial of service last week, or maybe two
oh,
weeks ago, when the prices crashed, and it basically like the chain stopped working because like they were getting bombarded with transactions.
sounds very
So like
centralized.
yeah, but the mempool exists. Part of the reason the mempool has relay rules that it does is it tries to prevent denial of service,
Mm-hmm.
to some extent, or like make denial of service attacks more costly, etc. Yeah, so like part of the reason the mempool is like tricky as it is and has like weird edges because they're attempting to prevent people from like like blasting them with transactions and causing the whole like Bitcoin relay network to go down, basically.
All right, so full circle back to last week. Is this where the package relay stuff comes in too, or is that different?
Yeah, I think like so talking about changing the RBF rules definitely plays into denial of service stuff. There's definitely design considerations around RBF that
Mm-hmm.
are architected such that with an eye towards making it increasingly more expensive for the sender to create a new to repeat a transaction. So every time you like replace by fee, right? The idea is you sent one transaction and then basically when a node gets a transaction, it sends it to all the other transactions. Basically, it like gossips it out. And
Mm-hmm.
gossip on Lightning is very similar. And so if you send one transaction and then you change something about it and change the fee and send it again, then that's every new transaction is extra traffic on the network, right? Um, so we're trying to make it such that every new transaction you send is more expensive than the last one that you sent, um, such that you eventually that transaction will get included in a block, right? And you will have paid more for its inclusion as a compensation for all the extra network traffic you made the rest of the network. Um, what do you call it? Do. So it's kind of a weird thing because like it's like a direct cost on the person sending the transaction
Okay.
updates, right? Like have to pay more per byte. Um, but the people who are bearing the cost of all that extra stuff is all the nodes that are running in the network. And then the person who actually collects the payment as like a benefit of making it more expensive is the miner, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know, it's kind of a
Yeah.
funny, like we're trying to compensate people for their network usage, but the compensation ends up at the miner at the end of the day. But I think it like generally works pretty well.
I mean, Vivek talked about dust attacks on Lightning also. Um, said because the dust limit is enforced by a transaction relay policy between Bitcoin nodes, a Lightning commitment transaction or a channel update with one of its UTXOs below the dust limit may fail to relay in the event of a unilateral transaction. The
Unilateral
CVE, yeah,
close, right?
right.
Yeah.
The CVEs, remind me what CVE is? Oh,
Critical vector analysis. I don't know. I'm making
perfect.
stuff up.
Analysis could have been exploited via fee blackmailing of node operators, liquidity burning of competing Lightning service providers, or attacking direct channel peers if the Lightning node operator was also mining. Freaky.
Yeah, I mean, I think in Lightning, the general. So this kind of like goes into. Oh, I was talking to my brother like earlier about like this kind of stuff before we hopped on the call. So my brain's like, I just talked. Oh, not here. It's fine. Um, the thing I was gonna say is like general like one good general security practice in Lightning is like never become friend, never open a channel with a minor.
Mm,
Um,
mm-hmm.
and the reason for that is there's a tax that only really benefit minors because the money ends up in the fees. So as long as you aren't like
Uh,
incentivizing your peer to put as much money as possible into the fees of a commitment transaction, then you're fine because neither of you get it. And so there's like really, unless they like really hate you and are just trying to like pay the minor for some reason, maybe they have some backroom deal with the minor. So
see,
how do you
that's
know which miner is going to mine that transaction?
we should
I
have.
don't know.
That
Um,
I think that's interesting because last week we also talked about mining pools who will be the first to pay out in Lightning, but at the same time, do we want to open up a channel with Slush Pool
no, probably. I mean, honestly, like
or
there's
whoever?
definitely a risk there in terms of like there's a tax that really only minor or profitable for minors on Lightning.
Yeah.
Um, Yeah, which like honestly is probably a pretty decent design of Lightning. Like if anyone's gonna get the money, I think it's fine to pay the miners.
I
But
mean, the good thing about a minor Lightning payout is they don't need inbound liquidity, so they could just open up channels to like async or something and then pay out through hops instead, and it's better, right?
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah,
fun.
yeah, yeah,
I like
yeah. I
Lightning.
don't know, man. It turns out like having pre-signed transactions, using pre-signed transactions, it turns out is really difficult.
In what way? What do you mean?
Okay, because that's Lightning is all about pre-signed transactions, right?
Right, and then
That's like the
triggers.
security model
Yeah.
is and what? Sorry.
Sorry, and those get triggered based on certain criteria.
Yeah, yeah, but like basically your like security of your funds in a channel is based on a pre-signed transaction you have from the peer, right?
Yeah, it's a little
And the
freaky to think
protocol is
about.
all about like how you update this pre-signed transaction. At the end of the day, it comes back to a pre-signed transaction. Turns out there's a lot of problems with pre-signed transactions and like relay policy. Like, are you going to be able to get it to the miner using the current like relay infrastructure of the underlying thing? That's like one big thing you got to worry about. The other big problem is like, yeah, I mean, I guess that's really just it. Is that true? Yeah, I think that's most of it. A lot of it, I think a lot of lightning problems fall into you can kind of
What
classify as like getting pre-signed, pre-created, pre-signed
what
transactions.
are some like ways a Lightning node operator could reduce any of these strange risks? Like for example, is opening up bigger channels a good idea? Is
I
not
mean,
planning to? Yeah.
a lot of it's protocol related, unfortunately. I think
Okay.
there's not a lot you can do in terms of uh I think like so anchor outputs is like a huge benefit
Mm-hmm.
for stuff. The package relay stuff that is coming is like really important and exciting for these pre-signed transactions and some edge cases in relay. The thing with package is that like package relay basically makes it easier to relay pre-signed transactions because now there's a component of the transaction. So if you think of a package relay, basically is like is actually just like a big transaction, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's almost like you take the two and you smush them together, and then that's what you're able to relay, basically.
Mm-hmm.
Um, this basically means that a package basically has two components. One's like pre-signed and one is like dynamic. So as long as now you have a dynamic portion to that, they can update the fees on the static thing. That basically solves a lot of the problems that pre-signed transactions have, which is that they're non-reactive and they're like basically snapshots of the chain at a certain state and the environment, like how much the fees were and what it takes to get relayed. So having package relay lets you like still have that part that was preset a long time ago, but you can also add this dynamic amount of fees to it and then send those as like a mega bundle like transaction through the relay, right? So when they get relayed, they get considered as a big bundled transaction instead of two separate parts. It's like the whole
Wow.
thing with package relay. It's
and
coming.
and this is being discussed a lot in the spec meetings.
I don't
Or
go to the core meetings. I don't know if it is. I would assume so.
okay, because there was a meeting, I guess, and they talked about route blinding and offers.
Mm.
Again, this is from
Oh, these are our spec meetings. Yes, I
Yeah.
go to these meetings. Okay, these
Okay,
are
I thought
Lightning
you
spec
did because
meetings.
you're a spec dev.
Yeah, yeah, I go to these meetings.
Okay.
Sometimes I say things. I don't remember. Recently, we've been talking about other stuff than package relay because a
Uh-huh.
lot of like the stuff, so it's like generally well understood that anchor outputs is a big win because it allows you to construct packages for these static transactions. But we need package relay to really make them work as like efficiently as we can. Right now, there's a little bit of kind of overhead that you still have to put into them that we could be able to take out. That's kind of complicated to explain, but like
Mm.
package relay is a thing that will help with a lot of corner cases on this stuff. So we're excited to get it in. But I mean, but anchor outputs have their own whole challenge. It's
Sure.
like I don't, man, yeah, lightning. What a terrible idea.
Thaddeus, why? How could you?
Yeah, it's like bad. I mean, it's not that bad, but
No,
anyways.
no. I mean, it's still just. I feel like I can't imagine life without this, even though I've only been into it for a few years. It's like this is life
Yeah.
now.
Yeah, I mean, it's cool that you've got like a whole career doing lightning stuff. Yeah.
One day at a time. I feel like I'm just kind of like a rock, just rolling down a mountainside, and whatever I bounce into, I just kind of keep bouncing around.
Yeah, that makes sense. I'm gonna switch
But
over to a place real sec. One sec. I need to plug my laptop in. I'll be right back.
yeah. Okay.
Um,
I mean,
one, two,
we
three.
only got a few minutes.
Yeah, we have 5 more minutes. What else should we talk about? I feel like
So
should we like just wrap it up? Should we talk about something else?
I
Like,
mean, Renee said, I always had the feeling that well, actually, let's go back. I'm going to get to his. So he said, well, minimum on chain fees are practically also 1 sat per byte. So the reward will be at least, like, gosh, I can't even read that. 10 million sats? 1 million?
oh no, I got like this horrible thing. It's fine.
10,
Okay.
1 million. 1 million and one. That was a while ago. That was like 20 minutes ago if we were talking. So I don't remember what we were talking about 20 minutes ago. And then just a second ago, he said, I always had the feeling that on chain fees are the omnipresent problem in Lightning, but abstracting this to pre signed transactions are difficult to work with, in quotes, is a great perspective.
Yes. Yes. Yeah, because it's a general problem. You can generalize it to like pre-signed transactions, and then and I think so. Like, I don't know if you know a lot about Revolt, and I think maybe DLCs run into this too. I don't really know how DLCs work. That might be a fun thing to talk about at some point. But
Mm-hmm.
Revolt is like basically anytime you're trying to do a vault. So maybe I'm saying that wrong, but it's like a French company, I think, that tries to build vaults where
Is that a Lightning thing?
vaults are basically I don't know how to explain them. You like kind of lock your money into them and it makes they're almost like a poor man's covenants that uses pre-signed transactions to try and make it such that only certain people can spend them, etc.
I mean, I found Revolt. It looks like kind of a shitcoin thing. Is that what you're talking about?
No, it's a Bitcoin thing. I
Okay.
can't see what you're
Like
looking at. So
Revolt.network is like
let me
DeFi
go look it up.
strategies, blah 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 blah. So I don't know.
Here, maybe we find and maximize vault strategies? No, I don't think that's it.
Yeah, that's what I was looking at.
It's revolt.dev.
Oh, okay.
Custody solution for institutions holding Bitcoin. So they're basically trying to build these like vaults,
Got it. Oh,
VALUT, like bank vaults that you put money into, but I believe they also use pre-signed transactions. So do I think DLCs also fall into like DLCs and Lightning are very similar, and then that they also both concern pre-signed transactions, right? And the difference with the DLC is that the payout mechanism is based on some predetermined. So you pre-sign a bunch of transactions that pay out depending on what the Oracle produces as a result. So you can like bet on outcomes by creating pre-signed transactions before the event happens, and then only one of those pre-signed transactions is actually valid.
Like DLCs.
Yeah. But it's the same thing. It's all pre-signed transactions, and so they all have the same problem with relay stuff. And I think package relay will help not just Lightning, but like a lot of stuff. It's exciting.
Yeah, I'm excited. I want to see this stuff happen. This is really cool.
Yeah. But yeah, I think like, and so I think like Lightning is pioneering this idea of anchor outputs. I think people who run LND have already kind of seen how that has like interesting impacts on your balance though, and how much money you have to keep in your wallet. And there's some really interesting implications there between like when you have money on a node where the money has to be like locked up to, you know? So like currently when you make a channel, you kind of like, let's say like 1,000,000 sats in a channel, right? How do I explain?
So
that 1,000,000 sats then becomes like your fee budget to some extent for getting that transaction mined. Hopefully way less than that, but you kind of have like a bucket of money and the fees for getting it mined or like some portion of that 1,000,000 sats. When you move to anchor outputs though, all of a sudden you're no longer like bucketing your fee money per channel. It's not like kind of pre-included in the channel balance. You have to keep a separate balance, which is like a backup your backup fee reserve.
Added this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that gets complicated. That gets so complicated. It gets so complicated depending on what edge cases you try and take care of, etc. And now all of a sudden you have a balance on your node, which hopefully scales with the number of channels you have open. You have to keep separate. So it's almost like a banking reserve, right? You can only lend out so much money. You have to have so much in reserves. Now, like every Lightning node that runs anchor channels has to have like this anchor reserve.
Yeah, well, that's one of the most common questions I get helping people with their nodes is they open up a channel and then they're like, "Where'd my money go?" And it's like, well, you gotta look in your little reserve area.
Yeah, it goes in the reserve. It's like your emergency gas tank, kind of, but you need it if things go bad, and if you don't need it, if things don't go poorly, then you'll be fine. Like, yeah.
Right. I mean, I think it's useful, for sure. But so,
cool.
Everyone implemented it.
We have it. So like
the big three anyway.
Yeah, I think C Lightning has them in as an experimental thing. We haven't really like implemented the like reserve part yet. That's still an open question.
Gotcha.
Because like we still need like there's still this like UTXO management, like wallet balance management reserve function parts that you have to like handle that we like haven't done quite yet, but it's coming soon. Question mark. I think Async is going to be shipping anchors soon, so it will no longer be considered experimental, which is exciting. Yeah.
Okay. When is the next C Lightning version? We're still waiting.
Yeah, it was supposed to come out soon. We're like all running behind on our little project, so we're hoping to get it in a month. Rusty's leading the release stuff. I'm still working on my like accounting stuff. It's coming. It's really man, I don't know. I always take longer than I think it will to get stuff.
That's okay. I was on the GitHub earlier and I was like, I wonder if it came out. I was like, oh no.
Nah, not yet. Soon. I'm excited. It's gonna be a big release. Yeah.
All right, before we wrap up, if mining reward is below dust limit, there are still fees added to the reward. So the Coinbase practically would not be dust because it's fee plus reward. So 1,000,000 sats of fees plus 1 sat of newly generated coins. We were talking about end days of the subsidy.
Yeah, that's assuming that fees pick up the slack, right?
Right. Interesting.
Yeah.
I don't think I'll be around. I hope they figure it out.
I know, right? It's like, someone else will solve that problem. Like, if it's that valuable of a system still, someone will figure it out, right?
I mean, we'll have a hard fork in our lifetime, though. I keep hearing whispers about that still coming around.
I don't think it's...
In like 20 years or something. I don't think it'll be a big deal. Unless some jerk decides to like throw a block size increase into it also. But even then, I don't think it'll work.
I don't think it's gonna happen. I think Bitcoin's pretty stable at this point. I think this package relay and RBF rule stuff is gonna be wild and new, and it's gonna take us a while to wrap our heads around. But
Renee says it assumes 1 sat per byte.
Yeah.
For the newly generated coins. Yeah, well, Renee, we'll have to have you on sometime.
Yeah.
We should talk. because that would be fun, I think.
Sounds good. All right, I gotta run, Nate, but
And we
this
could
was
talk
great.
about the
Thanks for
book.
hosting.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. New book.
Okay, Lisa. I had a good time. I hope everyone had fun listening. Enjoy the beautiful day. It's not ice cold anymore. Just slush cold. No, it's not even that. It's a little bit.
Well,
nippy
and
still,
hopefully
but
we'll
it's
see you
nice.
Tuesday at our hangout, Nate.
Yeah, I'm gonna try my best.